Kamusta? This is the dopamine guy, Mr. ADHD himself, and you are listening to my podcast, Mr. ADHD. If you have ADHD or someone you know has ADHD or you feel like you have ADHD, then this show is for you. Kaya kinig na! Alright, now at this point, let's talk about the clinical, the educational aspect or definition of ADHD. Now, this would be a very basic introduction. It may take us many days for us to really define what ADHD is. But for now, ito muna yung kailangan natin maintindihan, especially if it's your first time hearing about ADHD. Now, let's define what ADHD is. ADHD is actually an acronym. A stands for... Ayan, nakalimutan ko na. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now, initially, pag translate mo sa Tagalog, kulang sa pansin, papansin, or malikot, no? But that's a very wrong definition of this disorder. Now, according to the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, NACS, or the DSM, as they referred to, it's actually their Bible for diagnosing mental health conditions. ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity, impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. Now, this is just a trivia, or at least one of the trivia that I will be sharing with you. So historically, ADHD is thought of a mental health condition na pambata lang. That's why initially the diagnosis were for kids, although there were presentations and symptoms that are apparent sa mga adults. But historically and initially, sa bata nila nakita tong sickness na to or condition na to. That's why kaunti lang yung mga na the diagnose na matanda way back. But until now, but at least now, there are more developments as to the diagnosis and the testing and identification of symptoms and manifestations of ADHD in adults. Now, back to the facts. Okay, so we have discussed Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder as synonyms. More definitions about it. It's neurological disorder, meaning it affects the brain. It's also a psychosocial disorder, meaning it affects, again, the brain, the thinking, and therefore affecting behaviors, thus affecting how people relate to other people and the environment. And lastly, it's neurodevelopmental, meaning it affects how the brain grows and develops. So wow, so that's how ADHD is being defined right now. And yun nga, like I mentioned, there are symptoms or hallmarks as to how ADHD are presented in children and adults. But because of these hallmarks, there are currently 3 types of ADHD presentations in children and adults. Now, the first one is predominantly inattentive, meaning you are more on affecting individual or a person that has problems with attention or the lack of, or inattention rather. So this is where it falls. If you're the type of person who is easily distracted and forgets details of daily routines, then you may fall under the predominantly inattentive type. Now, here are some of the symptoms related to someone who may have the ADHD inattentive type. So here are the symptoms of someone who falls under the inattentive type of ADHD. Are you someone who makes careless mistakes or lacks attention to detail? So madali laging nagkakamali. Difficulty sustaining attention, does not seem to listen when spoken to directly, fails to follow through on tasks and instructions, exhibits poor organization, avoids and dislikes tasks requiring sustained mental effort, loses things necessary for tasks, activities, easily distracted including unrelated thoughts, forgetful in daily activities. So this is the inattentive type of ADHD. Now I would say I would check most. I'm the inattentive type as well. So yeah, I easily get distracted. I tend to be bored most of the time, and I have difficulty sustaining attention, especially for stuff na I'm really bored at. Okay, now the second part, or the second type of ADHD, is the hyperactivity impulsivity rather. Now, fidgets with or taps hands or feet, squirms in seat, leaves seat in situations when remaining seated is expected, experiences feelings of restlessness, has difficulty engaging in quiet leisurely activities, is always on the go or acts as if driven by a motor, talks excessively, blurts out answers, has difficulty waiting their turn, interrupts or intrudes on others. Now, if you see yourself with some, if not all, of the manifestations or presentations under hyperactivity impulsivity, then that means you fall under this type. Now, I can identify 5 or 6, if not most, if not all. So yeah, and the third type is the combined type. If we have 5 to 6, or at least 6 of the symptoms under inattention and 6 of the symptoms under hyperactivity impulsivity, then you are the combined type. In my case, I would consider myself as combined type. So that's how DSM is diagnosing or categorizing people with ADHD. But there are a lot of research and materials refuting these claims. And just a trivia, guys, hindi ang ibig sabihin nito yung mga diagnosis or the characteristics presented here were actually used for children. So kung ito yung mga criteria na gagamitin to identify ADHD in adults, definitely most of the adults will not be able to relate to. So resulting to misdiagnosis or undiagnosis, if there's a word, of ADHD in adults. And I think a lot of works are being done to have at least for the next version of the DSM, which is currently at version 5. So that's what a lot of people are working into, changing or improving the criteria for ADHD diagnosis to include those manifestations or presentations in that, and for adults at least. Now that's one trivia, no? And another fact here is, initially it was believed that the symptoms ADHD kids have, they outgrow them. Fortunately, some actually outgrow them, but most would have them as they grow old. It's just that it changes, the presentation changes. Apparently that's how it rolls with ADHD symptoms. Your presentations as a kid would change eventually as you grow old, and even with adults, the presentations would change depending on which stage you are at life, or the situations that you are in as well. So that's very interesting facts about ADHD, you know. And here are more details about in terms of statistics. Now, according to my research, there's a survey in 2016 showing that about 388,000 or 2.4% of children aged 2 to 5 years old, and about 2.4 million or 9.6% of children aged 6 to 11 years old have been diagnosed with ADHD worldwide. Now, as you can see, as like I mentioned kanina, the statistics and the studies are more involved or more focused on ADHD for kids, because that's how it was originally intended. Now, they thought that the ADHD are for kids, or are just conditions affecting children. But yun nga, as time progresses, there were developments stating that ADHD affects adults, individuals as well. Unfortunately, the statistics does not, or there are not enough studies showing or presenting facts about ADHD in adults. Now, in the Philippines naman, there's an estimated 3 to 5% of population aged to 0 to 14 years old na na-diagnose with ADHD dito sa Pilipinas, which is actually much worse because we don't have that statistics and numbers to prove whether there are presentations in ADHD. And again, it's a very it's a not common scenario wherein you will be hearing people in the workplace and at school or wherever or with your family when they talk about ADHD, because first and foremost, it's still a mental health condition, and there's still a stigma when we talk about mental health or mental health conditions here in the country. Alright, so we will be discussing more facts and history or more information about ADHD in the future. But for now, I'm having a brain freeze, and I think this is enough for today for us to really know more about ADHD. Okay? So there you have it, guys. We talked about ADHD, presentations, my life after the diagnosis, and the signs and symptoms in ADHD, both in children and adults. And like I said, there's more to ADHD than the information that I shared today. We're barely scratching the surface, so to speak. And just a reminder, guys, we are in this journey together. Hope that, as you learn more stuff about ADHD, you will also be gaining understanding and compassion in dealing with yourself, with other people, especially that ADHD is something new to you, and to everyone else around you. Okay, so the next time you encounter someone aside from yourself, be compassionate. And ADHD symptoms differ and vary from person to person. Other people may be presenting just fine. We call these people as high-functioning individuals who may have mental health disorders but are doing just fine. Walang problema. Not having problems with their aspects of life. But there are also people who are very much affected, and it's the symptoms and presentations of mental health disorders are debilitating. So, in case you encounter people who you think may have ADHD or other mental health conditions, be compassionate and be understanding. Okay? And if you yourself is thinking of seeking help, then definitely I would advise you to just go and look for the support that you need. If you need to consult a psychologist or psychiatrist about your mental health condition, if you know someone who has the condition and you may ask about the condition, then definitely it's a good start for you. But at some point, if it's really affecting you, then definitely knowing about the condition is just one step, and then doing about it after the diagnosis, and then if there's medication and treatment, then definitely that's another step or action to take. Okay, so that's all on my end. I hope you learned something from me today. And kayo guys, what are your symptoms? What type of ADHD? If you know, you can just comment down below and write them down, just for us to know more about each other. Okay, so I hope you learned something from me today, like I said. And it's a very long episode, sorry about that. And I hope that you're doing great, and know that we are here for you. We are in this together. And if you have any questions, violent reactions, or any topics that you would like to cover in the future, just send me a message or comment down here. Alright? Thank you. And marami po salamat. This is Mr. ADHD.